Have you been considering a bad boy zero-turn mower? Between the thousands of zero-turns that I've sold, the hundreds of hours researching bad boy mowers, and the numerous hours that went into the preparation of this video, this is absolutely jam-packed with valuable information. Stick around to the end of this video. You will not want to miss a thing. We will cover all that bad boy has to offer in 2024, including new models like this, the Rebel X. But before we get to that point, we're going to start at the very beginning of the residential line with the MZ Rambler. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, the number one thing I look at when I'm looking at a mower is the transmission size. Lots of different companies use hydro gear transmissions, bad boy being no different. Now this mower right here has a ZT 2200 transmission. The transmission and the size is going to be the speed at which you move when you're going across the ground. So that's going to make a huge difference in how long it takes you to cut your grass. So this has a ZT 2200 transmission, probably about the smallest transmission you'll see in a zero-turn mower. The next thing I'd look at is the engine. This has a single cylinder Briggs & Stratton engine on it. And so those are those two baseline things that I'm going to look at first, and that's what this Rambler has. Now as you go around that mower, one thing that's really impressive with Bad Boy compared to other brands, industry leading, they're going to have 7-gauge steel deck. You're not going to see that until you go to the commercial level on most other mower brands. Now, another thing that Bad Boy does as a standard is the accessibility on these mowers is really second to none. Even at this lowest line price point, you have complete and total access to the top of the deck. If you flip the seat up, you have complete and total access to the engine and components in between. And then just another couple standard features that I really like that Bad Boy gives you is a rubber grass chute, a really nice system for the deck adjustment, and then also just many greasable components. Part of how they were able to keep this price point down is a more standard type of seat, no armrests. And then if you look at the deck, it is much shallower on this model, and even just this model and the couple above it, compared to a deeper deck, which gives you probably a little bit better quality of cut as you move up. Now on this model, it will not come standard with an hour meter. They do give you this style parking brake lever, which works off of a cable. And then lastly, they will put the choke on the left-hand side, so when you're turning the key, you can pull up on that choke with your other hand. Now here at Howe Equipment, we are also a Toro dealer. We've done a similar video with Toro, and one thing I will tell you that will probably help you guys quite a bit, maybe you're just considering the residential series, maybe you're up in the commercial series. If you look on the bottom of this video, there are timestamps which tell you what model we're talking about, where we're at in the video. Maybe only certain parts apply to you. Sure, this is a long video, but take in the parts that matter to you. And you very well may gain just tons of value by watching this entire video, because we're going to talk about things like transmission sizes, why those matter, sprinkled throughout the video. But let's move up to the MZ Magnum. So one thing that's really impressed me about Bad Boy is all the incremental options that Bad Boy gives you depending on what price point or what engine you'd prefer. Now this is going to be on the same frame as where we were before. A few differences, one being that this will have an hour meter as a standard. They're going to give you more options as far as deck configurations. You can get this in a 48-inch or a 54-inch. And besides the deck options, you also will have options between a Kawasaki engine or a Kohler. This parking brake system, I'm not a huge fan of this parking brake system. I don't know why they couldn't do something different that's a little larger, a little more mechanical, instead of this kind of smaller, chintzy parking brake system. And they changed that when you move up to the next level, and I do get it. They're trying to probably keep a price point where they need to be, and that just might be what they came up with. So the Rambler and the Magnum both have 18-inch tall tires. You do get an extra 1 inch of width. This is actually a 9.5-inch wide tire that they give you when you jump up to this Magnum. So let's move up in class to the ZT Avenger. Now this frame is going to very closely resemble that of the Magnum. There are going to be a few things that do change as you look across this mower though. Number one, that parking brake lever now will sit up higher, a little bit different of a mechanism, which I tend to like a little bit more. Also, you're going to gain in fuel capacity. These fender flares get a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier. And then one kind of nice little detail that you'll notice at this level is you have these front bogey wheels and you have more on here, so there's going to be less opportunity to actually scalp your lawn. Now that number one difference when you jump up to the Avenger, you're getting a ZT 2800 transmission versus the ZT 2200 transmission that was only offered below in these series. That ZT 2800 transmission, it's going to give you significantly more speed as you're mowing. So again, you're gonna have the Kohler and the Kawasaki as far as those engine options. Now take this mower right here. This is the 60-inch. It has the Kawasaki engine option. Now fellas, this is the point where yes, you're gonna have to go to your wife. You're going to have to ask, honey, can I take a couple more extra dollars out of my pocket? Because you're gonna wanna do that when I talk about some of these features on the ZT Elite. The number one biggest thing I'd say when you jump up to this ZT Elite is what they start to do really well. They add tremendous suspension from this point on up. So Bad Boy puts these rubber puck isolators, and what that's going to do when you're going over bumps and you're going back and forth, it's going to absorb a lot of those little undulations, and it's going to give you a higher quality of ride. And just besides that, you're getting a nicer seat that also is going to have armrests at this level. And another really noticeable difference at this point is a much deeper deck. And so when you're talking about cut quality, the higher you can get that grass to stand up, the more suction to bring that up, the better quality of cut you're going to get. Now the tracking on a mower over time can slightly go faster on the left side or the right side, and you need to make that adjustment. Well, with Bad Boy, they give you this piece right here that you can pull down, pull this piece out. Let me try and get it. And what you can do is spin this thread and then pop it back in. And to me, I don't really love that system. Now I also sell Toros, and Toro makes a nut that is visible on the backside that you can go clockwise or counterclockwise to speed or slow down that transmission. Now I'm sure at some point in time we will have a video on how to do this, and probably not all that complicated, but to me, I don't love that adjustment system. So when you get to this level, when you get to that ZT Elite, you're getting a really strong mower. No, we're not to the commercial level quite yet, but you're gonna get a really high quality of cut. And you could probably tell by just looking at this mower, this is much more robust. Again, bigger tires yet, more aggressive tires, bigger fuel capacity. And the mower sits up that much taller compared to that Avenger series. And back to the point about all the different incremental options that Bad Boy gives you, no different here with 3 different engine options in this class. You can get Kawasaki, you can get the Briggs & Stratton, or you can go with that tried and true Kohler. When I think of mowers, I tend to think about 3 different classes. I think of residential, I think of high-end residential, and then full-on commercial. Now, back to the ZT Elite, I would call that high-end residential, as I would call this. And when you get to that high-end residential, technically you're not quite commercial, but you've got a number of commercial features. Typically, where I may give more of a standard of what's commercial, what's not, again, back to those transmissions, once you get to a ZT 3000 level and above, that's more of a commercial level transmission. When you go over here to this Maverick, you get ZT 3200 transmissions. And I see that misconception all the time. People thinking if I have a 25 horse engine or a 30 horse engine, that's what's gonna give me all the speed. No, it's the transmissions. And so when you go to ZT 3200 transmissions, again, you're just that much faster. But also what you're gonna get when you get to this kind of high-end residential type machine, you're gonna get better engine options. And so when you compare this Kohler to the Kohlers in the class below this, you're gonna see a bigger air canister filter on that engine. And that's gonna be no different if you jump over to the other Kawasaki engine. You're also gonna get a higher grade Kawasaki than you would have seen in the classes below this. Now, some other noticeable difference as we go around this machine compared to that of the ZT Elite, this time you're gonna have 23-inch tires. You're gonna notice a little bit nicer seat, and now you have adjustments right here where you can move and have a little bit more of an adjustment point to where you want your hands to rest as well. And probably my favorite upgrade when you go from the ZT Elite up to the Maverick is, again, you're gonna see these rubber puck isolators that's gonna give you that premium suspension. Well, they also are gonna do that on the back of the machine. Underneath the framing, you're gonna see the same rubber puck isolators. And you'll notice if I grab this machine, there is a significant amount of suspension to this just by moving back and forth. And so that's gonna give you a really premium quality of ride when you get to the Maverick level. We're reaching, finally, fully commercial mowers. And quite frankly, the value that Bad Boy provides at their commercial level is unreal. I'm going to mention all the great features you get with actual commercial mowers by Bad Boy, but the thing that's amazing just besides the features you get is the actual price point that you're going to get them at. Now here's something that's unique to Bad Boy. Bad Boy, unlike most other manufacturers, are selling direct to dealer. So when I bought these mowers, I bought them directly from Bad Boy. Now we're also a Toro dealer, and Toro has distributors. So how that works is Toro sells the mower to a distributor who then sells it to us. That distributor has to have some meat on the bone, right? And what happens is that price point will go up just a little bit. And that's the case for most mower brands that are out there. Bad Boy has set somewhat of a different experience up, and with cutting the middleman out, they've gotten into a better price point, and it really shows when you're looking at commercial mowers. So what makes this mower commercial? When you hear people talk about commercial, what really does that mean? Well, it's going to be that component that I've kept talking about this whole time. Number one, it's going to be, what is that transmission? What does that transmission look like? And then does it have a fully commercial engine? This has a fully commercial engine, and this has ZT 3400 transmissions. Now here's the thing about transmissions. We're going up to a ZT 3400 transmission, and when you get to this point with Bad Boy, finally it is completely serviceable. What do I mean by serviceable? Well, you're gonna see external reservoirs for the hydraulics, and it makes it that much easier to change the fluid, which is going to extend the longevity of your machine. So this particular engine is a Kawasaki, and you'll notice this air canister filter that is completely outside of the engine at this point. This is a better air filtration system. It will help your engine last that much longer, right? It's not so much the horsepower of an engine, but more how it's built as far as how it will last. Now the horsepower of the engine is going to be helping you right when you're in really thick grass. It's going to help cut it better. It may lead to a slightly better quality of cut the bigger engine that you get, because you're getting better blade tip speed. But again, the transmission is the speed, the engine is how powerful it will be at cutting the grass. Now the Maverick we did not call commercial, but the Maverick HD we did, and of course transmissions and engines are a part of that. The other noticeable difference, you'll notice as you go through this machine, the frame's the exact same. The rubber puck isolators in front and back, both of them have that, but you see a huge difference in the seats. So this has an air dial seat, and what's really nice about this level of a suspension seat is you can set this air dial and you can make it so that it will give you more cushion or less depending on what your weight is. Now again, as I mentioned, you got a fully commercial machine here. You've got a Kawasaki carbureted engine option, or you can go with a Briggs & Stratton fuel injected option, or there is a Kohler engine option as well. Now trust me, I can respect the fact that $9,000 is a lot of money. Trust me, I know it is a lot of money, but when you're talking about a fully commercial machine, where else are you going to get a fully commercial machine for $9,000 or less? That's pretty hard to come by if you're looking at other different brands that are out there. And yes, that is a fully commercial machine, but behind these doors, we're going to see the best of the best that Bad Boy has to offer. We're going to see a couple tiers even above what we have talked about. And behind those doors, that's for the guy who is a commercial landscaper. That's for the person that has 4 to 10 acres of property. So without further ado, let's head on in. So I don't know about you, but I get really excited when I get to commercial level mowers. Now I'm a guy that sells these and I see them from top to bottom. There's such a difference when you are looking at these high level commercial mowers. And don't get me wrong, the Maverick HD, that's a commercial mower, but when you go to the R series with Bad Boy, you're really moving to that really high level commercial mower. So new to Bad Boy in 2024 is this Rebel X. So as far as this top line commercial mowers, they do have stand-on mowers as well, and this video is meant to focus on the zero turns, okay? So in that R series for their zero turns, they have a Rebel, they have a Rebel X, they have a Rogue, and then finally the Renegade. So I don't have any straight up Rebels, but I do have a Rebel X in front of me right now. Now the difference between the Rebel X and just the regular Rebel, you're gonna be on the same frame from Rebel to Rebel X, but you are going to get a few different things. So the Rebel X is going to give you the best of the best transmissions that Hydro Gear has to offer, the ZT5400 transmissions. The ZT5400 transmissions is the biggest that Hydro Gear makes, which gives you very high ground speed, which is significant compared to all of the different Hydro Gear transmissions that came to this point. So the Rebel X ZT5400 transmissions. The Rebel has ZT4400 transmissions. Now, one other thing that you gain when you move to the Rebel X is also going to be this tweel setup. Now, the tweels look awesome, they look cool, and what's really nice about that tweel setup is you will not go flat with those tweels, and then also that can potentially help your ride quality as well. Now the tweels, that's an expensive option in and of itself, and eventually when the rubber of those go down, you're gonna have to pay for those again. Now I've got some commercial guys that actually swear by the tweels. I don't have that much experience with tweels to know that you absolutely should make that investment or not, but the fact that it's already in the mower kind of makes it hard to say no to. Now, this is meant to be a very good price point commercial mower, and part of how they do that, what's different from that Maverick series, remember the Maverick, I told you that they have those puck isolators up front and in the rear. Well, this is a rigid frame the whole way through. So the ride quality is not gonna be to that same level in my opinion, but you have a really strong, sturdy frame that is on this mower. But trust me, you're still gonna have great ride quality. You have that air dial seat, which is gonna add just absolute premium suspension compared to just a regular conventional seat. Now, some updates for this year. This is a really nice setup here, really strong steel. It's got some cutouts that look really good. And just like every mower until this point, you have complete and total access to that deck. Now, one thing that absolutely blows me away about Bad Boy is how thick and heavy duty they make some components. So this deck is a 3-gauge deck, 3-gauge steel, 1/4-inch steel. And with Bad Boy, not only are they making really thick components like this, but there's actually some unique things that is all throughout their commercial level mowers. They tab steel. So what I mean by tabbing is, take this top part of the deck, right? You'll notice this little bit of a cutout piece, and what many different manufacturers may do in this case, take for example the baffling that is under this mower, they may just take it up to this point and weld it to the position that it needs to be. Well, Bad Boy does specific things like tabbing, where they cut out a hole and notch that piece in. Instead of just the weld holding that baffle in place, well, it's also tabbed so that it is strong right in that exact location, and they do that all throughout different components of their mowers. And one thing again that's new this year, they do have these stomp pads that have this really nice piece of steel in here and these kind of pieces coming up, so really good gripping point on there. I do like that add-on for 2024. Now, one thing when I first saw these mowers land that I wasn't absolutely crazy about, to me everything is really overbuilt on this Rebel. Well, when you get down to this parking brake lever, this is really, to me, it feels a little bit of a chintzy piece of plastic. Like, why did they not do something that is a little bit heavier duty right in here? It's not really a huge deal, but to me, just one thing I wish Bad Boy possibly might update. To me, it just feels like something that is a little bit lower grade, just piece of light plastic compared to everything else that's on the mower. And as we head towards the back of the mower, like everything else before this as well, the serviceability on this mower, you have great access to absolutely everything, and then they give you really large reservoirs where you can service these transmissions, which I talked about being really important. And then lastly, on the Rebel X, they're gonna give you this big 37 horsepower Briggs & Stratton Vanguard engine option. And if you're considering just that Rebel and not the Rebel X, you're gonna have the ZT4400 transmissions, and then you can pick from the litter of Kohler, Kawasaki, or Briggs. And if you go down to the Rebel, you're gonna be significantly better in pricing, and you can save quite a bit of money if you go down to their lowest engine offering in the Rebel series. So now we're gonna move over to my favorite mower that Bad Boy has to offer. It's on the other side of the showroom, the Rogue. There are just so many things to like about this. Rocky, get down, get down. So the Bad Boy Rogue. Rocky, go. No, let's go. Get out of here.
Bad dog, bad dog.
The Rogue has so many things going for it. I'm trying to think of even where to start with this mower. So just number one, looking at this thing, is absolutely big, beefy, very high-end commercial mower. This hangs with those commercial mowers that you will find in other brands for $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, $20,000, okay? But this is not gonna come close to that price point, and everything that has to offer is super impressive. So moving back up to the Rogue, this is gonna take you right back to these rubber puck isolation mounts that we had talked about back in that Maverick series. And the rest of the suspension around this mower is why, to me, it is my favorite, along with the transmission and the engine options that are offered here. So if I start by flipping this seat up and kind of looking underneath the hood, so to speak. So number one, you see very visible and open hydraulics here. You've got a 16cc hydro gear pump that is right here. Now these are separate, the pumps and the wheel motors. It's got wheel motors that are Parker wheel motors. So those two things are separate, but they are isolated to each side. You see this big hydraulic reservoir here. This is a really high-end transmission setup. I really like that. And to kind of, come off that topic for just a second and go back to those rubber puck isolators at this level, tucked right under here, you have more rubber puck isolators. And so we know that gives great suspension. So you've got those. You've got the suspension seat, which we know adds a tremendous amount of value. But now I want to show you underneath this machine. I'm going to get on my belly to show you guys this, but truly phenomenal what they're doing underneath this mower. And here we are under the mower, but to me this is really what sets it apart as far as suspension goes. These are trailing arms. So you have ATV trailing arms underneath, and so you can imagine when you're going over bumps and all that kind of stuff that this whole frame is being absorbed here. That is really unique in the industry to have anything like this underneath the mower. So if I get back up top, and I kind of showed this on the Maverick as well, if I kind of press back and forth, you can clearly see this amazing suspension that this mower has between all those three components. It's kind of unreal. When we first got this, I ran this across the parking lot and I went over one of the potholes and it was truly smooth. Now, as far as mowers that have suspension, of course, brands like Ferris come to mind. They have an amazing suspension system with their shocks, right? We also sell Toro. Toro makes a My Ride suspension, really nice. I never in my wildest dreams thought Bad Boy was putting such good suspension in their mowers, but this is really unique what Bad Boy's doing, and I can tell you this is truly a great suspension system in comparison to those. And between that great suspension and the transmission setup that we talked about, it makes for a very smooth riding mower, because hydro gear transmissions are a really good transmission going up to that ZT 5400 class. Now, when you move back and forth with a hydro gear transmission, when trying to compare it to Parker wheel motors, it's a slightly smoother type of feeling, and you're getting that slightly smoother feeling with this transmission setup along with that phenomenal suspension. So between all those things, this is a great setup. So just at face value, between all those things, this is an awesome setup, like I said. Now, all those other things that Bad Boy has to offer, again, the great ability to access the deck and other components, along with lifting the seat, I've got access to everything. That 3-gauge, really heavy-duty steel deck, you can see the front end of this is just really bulky and strong. And I talked about that elite transmission setup that we've got here, but this kind of blows my mind. People love Kawasaki engines, and you can't blame them. Kawasaki makes a great engine, and they put a 38.5 fuel-injected Kawasaki engine option on here. I don't know who wouldn't like that setup. Now, they don't just offer the Kawasaki, they have Kohler and Briggs & Stratton options as well. This being the most expensive option that you can go with. If you go all the way down to a different setup as far as the engine goes, you can save quite a bit of money. And to come back to that price point, because that's to me what is really amazing about this setup right here. With other brands that are on the market, it's kind of unreal how expensive mowers have gotten nowadays. And I can tell you that this is an elite level transmission setup. This is the motor that everybody wants. And you will spend $15,000 to $20,000, if not more money, to go to this type of setup. So it's unreal that they've done all this and they've got it at this price point. If you're a commercial person, it's hard pressed not to consider the options of Bad Boy when you think about buying some other brand and spending between 2 mowers, $30,000 plus, almost $40,000. But with a bad boy, you could buy one of those mowers, right, and spend around $20,000. Well, Bad Boy gives you fleet discount pricing, right? So the prices that I'm even mentioning here can go even lower if you are a fleet customer. So you're a little above $10,000, $11,000, right? If you go to that fleet, you can buy 2 of these for the price of 1. And you can have a 2-year unlimited hour warranty. So if you are a commercial guy putting 500 to 1,000 hours a year, that's an awesome warranty if you're gonna put tons and tons of hours on a machine. And you can tell that excites me. I mean, it's kind of awesome. Rocky can surely, okay, Rocky can agree apparently. Come on, bring up the excitement level, okay? Now, let's move on to that next one. So the only mower that I don't have here is the Renegade. Now the Renegade differs from this Rogue a couple different ways. You're gonna see a very similar type framing if you go to that Renegade, but instead, what Bad Boy has done up to this point is a vertical shaft engine, right? Vertical meaning up and down. Well, another common engine type in very high-end mowers is a horizontal shaft engine. So that's what you're gonna get when you go to that Renegade series. Now they offer the Renegade in a horizontal shaft, and you can get that in gas or you can go all the way to the diesel. Some people will elect to go up to that level. I personally would say I like the Rogue the most because I like this traditional vertical shaft engine versus that horizontal shaft, but there can be definitely reasons that people want to go to that setup as well. The pricing on those Renegades are going to start just over $13,000, but if you elect to go with the diesel option, then you're going to get up to that $19,000 price point. And that's certainly a lot of money, but for a diesel, insane value there to be at that, even at $19,000. At this point, you should know just about everything if you're considering buying a Bad Boy zero-turn mower. Now, maybe you're considering other brands as well. We have a similar video right over here if you're considering the brand Toro, which we also sell. Now, on top of that, if you live anywhere in the United States, we can get a mower to you. And sometimes when it's a far delivery for us, we have found ways to make deliveries very affordable, whether you're buying things in bulk, so you or someone you know is buying it, or maybe it's just a high-level commercial mower and it makes sense to get that out to you for a reasonable cost. So keep that in mind and tune in for videos to come.